anything?
Mr. Chairman, I was just asking Sheila, should we, if you guys are okay, could we let Nickel and Saph go?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
What number are they?
14 to 16.
Yeah. You see here. 14 through 16.
This is the renewals, insurance renewals for the year. So it's the property, crime, inland, and marine insurance. And we have liability and auto, and professional liability, which includes public officials and law enforcement. Questions?
On the, like the liability, as far as like if we get sued under the, like a police department or something, do we only go to a certain amount that we're covered on?
So we
You
have.
know, what range do they cut off and it becomes our responsibility?
Right. We have different levels based on the type of insurance that it is. So for the law enforcement component, is that your question on law enforcement?
Yes.
Okay, so it would be, actually this is an increase to what we paid in the past. I did kind of reference that during the budget meeting, that we really thought the market was moving with the higher deductibles. So the 100 now goes to 150, okay? But in total, the policy is, with the excess coverage, it would be $7 million in coverage.
Oh, okay.
So we're responsible for the first time.
150. Correct.
That's based on what it's regarded, correct? Or is it
Yes, because
150
the
days?
general liability, like let's say it was maybe a trip and fall or an auto case, that would only be 50. Yeah. But I know the communication from Nickel and Saph kind of outlines the market search. I think what we've seen in the market, and I'll kind of let Steve even chime in on this too. It's a market where the carriers are kind of picking and choosing the clients or the coverages that they want to extend and afford in this market. So basically, we did have some carriers who declined to offer proposals. And then we obviously had various ranges of proposals on the spreadsheet that I sent you, so different ways to kind of carve out the same coverage. At the end of the day, the recommendation that I'm bringing forward is, which is option 2 on the memo, and that basically covers us at the exact same liability coverages that we have in place today. So obviously there's other ways to approach insurance. You could not have an excess coverage policy, which I don't recommend. You could lower your levels of coverage, which I don't recommend. I recommend staying right where we're at, up to that $7 million limit, with some of these new carriers that have come to the market that would like to, offer coverage to the city of Taylor.
Yeah, I think, does anybody have any questions on any individual? We'll probably put these in a consent, but if anybody has an issue with one specific one, just kind of let me know later or whatever.
Can we leave them in the middle? Because they have different carriers and amounts. Can we?
Oh, here,
Yeah.
here.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right,
so we
okay,
may
that's
not
not
be able to
just
do it
think
consent.
one. Yeah, you're right,
Okay.
that's fine. I guess not.
Steve, did you want to add anything else while you were here with us?
Well, I obviously available for any questions that you have. I know that we've given you an overview. The spreadsheet really begins to reflect the results of the effort this year. And if you go back to the letter, you identify the various carriers that we worked with. We had a certain set of challenges this year. The change of carriers. The market is not hardening from a pricing standpoint. It's hardening from a carrier's appetite for profitability. We've gone from the, give me business, give me business, give me business, to give me business as long as it's profitable. And we're seeing this happen throughout the marketplace right now. We're pleased that we're able to retain the same limits. We're pleased that we're able to retain the choice of counsel for the defense of covered claims, which was an important consideration for your law enforcement employment practices. I was thankful that the police chief was able to complete the interaction with OSS law enforcement advisors. David Solomon from OSS actually got involved, which was unique in my experience, and talked to a couple of underwriters on behalf of Taylor, and he shared his experience of what he saw with the development with the new chief and the benefit of the review of the policies and procedures that occurred. I think we still need to do some staff and command training on the new policies, and we're committed to do the element in relationship to the district court as far as the armed officers also. And that will pretty much wrap up that loss prevention effort. But I told Sheila David Solomon was worth his weight in gold in relationship to waylaying concerns and discussing his confidence going forward, which kept us in play with a couple of carriers. I think another reality is, for the size of the city of Taylor, I think you're going to be faced with increased retentions. If you think of a deductible is similar to a retention. Deductible is what you pay once the claim is resolved. A retention is what you pay out of pocket until the insurance company becomes involved. There is one change with QBE. They do have a true deductible program. So unlike where you're funding a claim in advance, they won't come to you until after the claim is paid and then ask for reimbursement for the deductible amount. So that helps a little bit with cash management and the day-to-day from that concern. I'm confident that the coverages that we were presenting are replicating what we've had in the past. If you look to the spreadsheet, you can see the items highlighted in yellow are those items that reflect last year. On the column on the left, the items highlighted in the middle are a one-time charge for an extended reporting period endorsement. This allows us to continue to report claims under the claims made forms for public officials, EPL, which is employment practices liability, and employee benefits liability. Again, that 153 would not be a reoccurring charge next year. Property, and then you move over to the middle column, and this is where we've got the general liability and automobile liability. They gave us a couple of options, but in looking at those options with higher retentions, it didn't make sense for those lines of coverage, so we're still retaining the 50,000 retention for the general liability and automobile liability. And then the right column is the law enforcement, PO is public officials, and the EPL, which is included with public officials. Those are separate policy forms, so you're getting the benefit of having separate towers of coverage. So if there is a catastrophic claim, and we talked a moment ago about that $7 million limit, you're not going to erode or attach the other afforded coverage, so you still have that set aside. I'm hoping that there's savings, there will be savings from the standpoint that you won't have to rely upon the third-party administrator in relationship to the management of claims for the law enforcement and public officials and employment practices. But again, we can still use the city's preferred defense counsel. Any questions?
Got a quick one real quick. If, with the, I was hoping that, with the addition of the body cams and all that stuff, maybe the lawsuits will go down. Could we possibly see a savings from that next year?
The short answer is yes. The further that we get away from and any time we want to do a closed door session, I'll be happy to attend and we can go over this in greater detail. But yeah, obviously, we're looking at a couple of factors here, history and the current market conditions. And, you know, I mentioned a moment ago, David Solomon, he's the individual that we contracted from OSS Law Enforcement Advisors, an outside consultant, to come in and review policies and procedures for patrol and now for the holding cells. And that gentleman was able to put together with the chief and his command staff updated policies and procedures. So we now have created the affirmative defense in relationship to potential future claims, which will hopefully reduce or mitigate those claims. The addition of the body cams, you know, those are all things that are factors that are good to check on the box, but we need to see now over a period of time. So the good news is that if we think of this maybe as right-sizing the account a little bit, hopefully there'll definitely be improvement next year, number one, because we'll be dropping off 153 from the extended reporting period. So that expense will go away. Looking forward to having the impact of the policies, procedures, and training come into play, and the continued successful efforts of the defense that the city's defense council support.
We insure the courts also, they fall under us.
Yeah, you are their, the proper phrase is you are their local funding unit. So you are responsible for them. The state district court administrator says that even though the court is a quasi-state agency, that litigated matters financially become the responsibility of the funding unit and not the state. So for that reason, we have a separate policy for the judges for their professional liability. We bond the individual court clerks in compliance with the state district court administrator. But at the end of the day, it's in your lap.
With that being said, I was just wondering then if it would not be feasible to put body cams on the court office, because they can get involved in shootings just as easy as anybody else.
You know, we can bring that up when we go to this next and final stage of the OSS training in relationship to the court.
Okay.
Is there cameras on this side in there possibly?
I'm sure that there are cameras in the court.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the chief has agreed to kind of be a liaison with the court, and just making sure that there's some oversight and they can offer some insight on kind of procedures and policy of